What's this in your back pocket? I just saw you walking it.
It's a navigational aid. What's the problem? You a tyrant?
Yeah, I am actually. What's your name and date of birth?
I don't have to give that unless
Yes,
I'm
sir.
here.
I was investigating.
You have reasonable
Do you want me to put you in
suspicion?
handcuffs right now? Yes, sir, I do.
What is your suspicion?
It looks like you're carrying a gun in your back pocket. I'm stopping to make sure you're carrying it properly. You don't
Have
have
you
to.
ensured that it's not a firearm?
No, you keep turning so I can't see it. You don't have to be a dick to me.
Well, you're being one to me.
No, sir, I'm
Have a
doing my
good day.
job.
Am I detained?
Yeah, you are. What's your name and date of birth?
It does not matter.
Yes, sir, it does.
Do you have a crime?
Would you like me
Call
to
your
put you in
supervisor,
He's right
please.
here.
All right.
You don't.
Sir, what's she stop you for? For a walking stick.
So,
And it could look like a weapon. She asked you to
Really?
present it, okay?
Now she's asking me for ID.
Okay.
I don't need ID unless there's reasonable articulated suspicion
And her
that I have committed a crime, am committing a crime,
And
or
her-
about to do a crime.
Sir, and her suspicion was that you were armed, okay? And she's asking you for your ID.
Well, now she has verified that I am not armed.
Okay.
So there is no
Do you have
problem.
your ID or not?
I do have my ID, but you don't need it.
Okay. Okay.
All right, get his ID.
77 Whiskey Mike detained. I don't know where his wallet is.
Where's your wallet at, sir?
I don't have a wallet on me.
Okay, where's your ID?
Where's your
In
ID
my
at?
pocket.
Which pocket?
You are not allowed to search me.
It's in this pocket.
There you go.
Thank you.
I want your names and badge numbers.
1257 on Nick 65 Florida 27.
Yeah, 4427. Preferably
Hotel
your cards.
322 457 61 2540.
Yeah, 22, 23,
Sir, are you legally blind? Yes, I am.
Okay.
I had to walk up here in the dark for jury duty, which was canceled. Why aren't you using your stick? You don't have to use your stick all the time? Not all the time.
26.
Green.
All right, Mr. Hodges. Was that hard?
It's gonna be. I want your name and your badge
You
number.
know, I put him in jail for resisting.
Okay. All right, let's go.
I want your name and badge number too, sir.
Have a seat.
You wanna pick my property up,
I
please?
sure will, after you have a seat.
Hi folks, my name's John Phillips. I'm an attorney from Jacksonville, Florida. With me today is my client, Jim Hodges. I'm from Jacksonville, and a few years ago we got a call from Martinez Bowman about a dog bite, a police dog attack in Lake City from Columbia County Sheriff's Office. And we investigated that. We filed suit on that case in Jacksonville in federal court. And the officer that was chiefly involved is a now retired, I guess, officer, David Harvey. Well, David Harvey was the chief training officer for Jamie Goad. So on October 31st of this year, when Jim was coming from jury duty, he was harassed by Jimmy Goad, and it led to the video you've all seen. We can make it available to you. And so I've gone from, one case in Clay County to two to looking at multiple. Even on the way here, somebody sent me an email about wrongdoing in the detention center. And, we've seen videos where police officers, sheriff's officers are taking what appears to be a tip or a kickback or a bribe. I've heard countless stories about wrongdoing with the sheriff's office. I've seen it over and over again on camera. And we're going to be asking for the Department of Justice to come in and take a look at the wrongdoing and the lack of discipline at Columbia County Sheriff's Office. And certainly we've filed a notice of intent to sue, which is available on the table, to sue Columbia County Sheriff's Office and hold them responsible. If you broadcast it, I think we've redacted his social security number, but please be cautious of his birthday and his social security number if you publish anything. Look, police protect us, and we depend on police to do a hero's job. But when they're poorly trained, when they abuse their power, it is the biggest breach of trust that our society has. And it too often, affects the disenfranchised. The African American community, in this instance, the blind community. And look, this, show them, Jim. This is not a weapon. This is an aid to a man who's legally blind. And by him merely displaying it and showing, okay, you were wrong, Jamie Goad, you were wrong, this isn't a gun, that should have been the end of the encounter. But instead, what you see is the self-proclaimed tyrant, then throwing a man in jail over ego tripping and power abusing. So today, with me today, we have some residents of Columbia County who've experienced, similar issues and who are certainly on the ground dealing with, police brutality and police abuse of power. So let me turn it over to them.
Hi, my name is Derek Sneed. I want to thank Jim for coming out today and expressing what happened with him. And I also just want to say that, with Columbia County Sheriff Mark Hunter, this is just egregious. And even the response that was given to his investigation was just awful. And this is not going to be the end of what you're going to be hearing in the near future. It's just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to some of the other items that the Sheriff's Department or Lake City Police Department have done to citizens of this county. Thank you.
Sylvester Warren III, also known as the activist to some and the agents to others. I just want to say it's very unfortunate what happened to Mr. Hodges as a blind man. I mean, we fight all the time with police issues within our community as being black. And so it's very painful to see that on one hand, how hurtful it is to deal with law enforcement with being black and then now being blind. This is not only the tip of the iceberg. I think this was the straw that broke the camel's back. It is unfortunately that law enforcement in Columbia County and Lake City does not have mandatory psychological background done on these officers, that we don't have citizen review boards, and that we're left to have to call on people like John. And thank God for people like John Phillips and his office that respond and help us to fight through these cases. But this shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't be happening to no race of people or no group of people. I think that police officers are held to a high standard. They're supposed to protect and serve, not attack. And it's just time, not only like John said, to bring the DOJ in to investigate the criminal and the injustice of the Columbia County Sheriff Department, but other law enforcement agencies such as the Lake City Police Department. Thank you.
Jim, do you want to say anything?
I might say a word. Had a whole bunch of stuff in my head that I wanted to talk about. I'm not a great orator, and I got my excuses for that. I appreciate y'all coming out. I appreciate you spreading light onto this. the only way to drive away darkness is to turn the lights on. I've been in Columbia County since like 2009. This is not my first time running into the face of injustice, just trying to get along and do my thing. I've had my ADA rights violated, and I've learned how to suck it up, Buttercup. Unfortunately, when social media started bringing this disease we have in our society to the public eye, I started getting exposed to it too. And I made up my mind that, well, I've always been the kind of person that don't really take things lying down. But I made up my mind to properly, and it is the law in Florida, that you are supposed to resist unlawful orders. So I made up my mind to properly, legally, and as maturely as possible, given the circumstances, to fight back with the only tools that I have, that being a severely damaged brain. Trust me, my friends will tell you that. Again, thank you for coming out. I'm sorry that I have to be the one bringing this to your attention again. Hopefully we all can get together and make the changes in our society that keep us a community. Thank you, and God bless.
So let me be clear. Martinez wanted to be here today and couldn't be here. But Martinez Bowman was just going home when Deputy Goad and former Deputy Harvey started a police pursuit. He drove at a very slow rate of speed to his home, and they screamed at him. He just said, "You're not going to shoot me, are you? Please don't shoot me." And they never answered that command, and they put the dog on him. Deputy Goad had her gun on him at the entire time. And they actually charged him with fleeing and eluding, a felony. They made that case go all the way to trial. The chief prosecutor sat right next to me, and we won. And he was found not guilty, and jurors came up to us afterwards and said, "What was that all about?" And I said, "You tell me. You're in Columbia County. I'm not. You tell me what that's about." And I thought, okay, now we've won the criminal case. We'll file the civil rights suit and we'll move forward, and maybe this was an isolated incident. And then I saw this video. And look, we can use the words, fortunately, Mr. Hodges wasn't shot. Fortunately, Mr. Hodges wasn't physically injured. But you know what? He was the victim of constitutional violations. And whether you're Republican or whether you're Democrat, we're all supposed to believe in the U.S. Constitution and want to see it enforced. And it was not. And if we keep hiring the same officers and don't listen when they commit abuses and don't react and give press statements that say, okay, we're gonna investigate this. Well, it's time that somebody besides the Columbia County Sheriff's Office investigates Columbia County Sheriff's Office, and we're going to start with a federal judge. We're going to hope the DOJ comes involved. We're going to ask our elected officials to step up. But this has to stop. We appreciate your interest. We appreciate your time, and we're here for any questions you might have. Administrative leave.
So there are two. I'm sorry. So what we know so far, according to Sheriff Mark Hunter in his press release, he came out and said that he suspended Officer Gold for 2 days, which is unfortunately the community, the greater part of the community, was expecting an immediate termination. And then he came and in that same press conference stated that the sergeant was suspended for 7 days, demoted, and for 2 years he will have no favorable treatment, meaning he won't be able to gain any rank. We also find that to be very unfortunate and very disrespectful to the whole concept of the badge and the uniform. No, nobody's terminated.
And nobody made the connection. It was only because I knew Deputy Goad from her testifying in Martinez Bowman's case that I said, that voice is very familiar. Wait, that's the same person that held a gun on Martinez and then testified, you can judge, questionably at trial, and ultimately resulted in a not guilty. But when you have someone saying, look at me, I'm causing problems with the community, and a sheriff says, what?
You didn't have any ill intent.
Right. Then, maybe it's the sheriff that has the actual vision impairment, not Mr. Hodges. But, we'll leave that for the DOJ to determine. Question? Justice is spelled one way, it's defined many different ways. And I asked Mr. Hodges that, early on, and this is the problem when you have, repeated issues and I'm just learning about them, right? It's easy for me to get back in my car and go back to Jacksonville. But, we're looking at Bradford Sheriff's Office. We're looking at St. Lucie Sheriff's Office. We've got to have, standard law enforcement. We've got to have some level of citizen review or citizen input. And, change is the first definition of justice. Certainly, there are some government agencies and some businesses that only respond to civil judgments. We're going to go for that too. But, it shouldn't take taxpayer money for tax-paid officials to respond. And, we're going to seek change. We're going to seek accountability, and use the civil justice system as much as we can. The criminal justice system has dismissed the charges. Okay, that was a start. Thank you, I guess. But it's we're gonna use every tool within our control to fix this. Question?
No, I'm feeling blessed. Enough people care. You asked what people want to see. I have always stated for many years that it amazes me that an individual has to go to school for a length of time, 4 years, 8 years, sometimes 12 years. And then the first thing they do is they go out and get an insurance policy before they put their shingle out. It bothers me that we're willing to give people a pass that have maybe 6 months training and a nice clean record. I think qualified immunity needs to be relooked at. And I think the insurance companies are real good at weeding out the bad eggs that cost too much money to keep. So we should let them take over the reins. As far as justice in my own personal case, judging from the response from you people, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get it. Thank you. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, sure.
My name is Glenn L. Bowden, past president of the NAACP and a former city councilman. It's a sad day in Lake City when we want to thank God for a blind man being arrested. Just think about that. We're here today, right now, because a blind man was arrested right down the street, and we praising God. It reminds me of George Floyd. But for George Floyd, a lot of changes never would have taken place in law enforcement throughout this country. So injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
Thank you.
And that's just how it is. And I'm so grateful to see so many people here. I was born and raised in Lake City, so I know what it's like. I know what it's like driving while black, walking while black, laughing while black, but I never thought a person get arrested for being blind. Just think if I was blind and black, I would have probably got beaten down. The only thing that helped Mr. Hodges, he happened to be a white man. If it had been Sylvester Warren, he might have been on the ground spread eagle about now. So I'm so happy that John has come over here to assist in this. As you well know, most of our progress did not happen just in the streets. It happened in the courthouse. Most of our progress happened in the courthouse. So I'm looking forward to some victories, looking forward to some justice for John, but also for John, but for our entire community. Law enforcement is out of hand in Lake City. That's why I tell people now that if you're driving, if you're not in a safe space, don't stop. And I encourage you now to stay off of Baskin Norris at night. Baskin Norris is dark. And if you're driving Baskin Norris at night and the police get out and you stop, then you're on your own. So that's all I got to say. Thank you, Attorney Phillips, and thank you for stepping up.
Any other questions? Right. So there's a story I told during an oral argument in front of the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals on this federal civil rights case. A bunch of law students came in, and as a law student, you don't know necessarily what your job's going to be, what your calling's going to be. And a young man was killed 10 years ago this month named Jordan Davis. And Jordan's parents taught me so much about civil rights and the different treatment between black people and white people. And Lucy McBath was just reelected to U.S. Congress, and she's going to be in Jacksonville to commemorate the death of her son, here in a week. And look, federal civil rights work is the hardest work a lawyer can do. I've done it all. But it's so meaningful because we've got to have change. And, like the pastor said, it's sometimes it's got to happen at the courthouse. And I'm not one for press conferences. We do them when there's enough interest. I'm one for fighting in front of judges. And watching this video, kind of sitting at home and knowing this officer was trained by an officer who was fired or kind of quit when the pressure was on him, and knowing the history and knowing her testimony at trial, it is the definition of insanity. And then hearing stories from other people that are sometimes labeled conspiracy theorists because they're telling the stories, right? And I need people to speak out. I need people to come forward and say, listen, this happened to me. This happened to me. What Mr. Sneed alluded to is going to shock all of you when you see some of the video that he has and some of the incidents that happened to him. We've passed around one video that I referenced about what appears to be an officer taking a kickback or a bribe through my office, and every one of us, including my law enforcement expert, are like, holy moly, like what is going on at Columbia County Sheriff's Office? And that's what the public needs to ask. What's going on at Columbia County Sheriff's Office? We can hold officers up as heroes while persecuting and prosecuting those who are not. Anything else? Yes, ma'am. I was asked to speak at the NAACP, and I sat right in between Ben Crump and Natalie Jackson. And I think I might have been the only white person in the room, besides the people that I brought. And you want to talk about intimidated. That was as intimidated as I've ever been, including by my own mom and dad. And I was asked a similar question. And I was like, well, listen, I'm speaking to the choir. You guys have seen it. You guys have done it. I'm new to civil and social justice, right? I have to learn vicariously because I carry around white privilege. But this is the choir. And when you walk into a church, particularly a very good, soulful, God is there church, it's the choir that makes the hair stand up on your arms. It's the choir that makes you feel closer to God. And what I said that day is what I'll say today. That choir needs to sing. That choir needs to vote. That choir needs to show up to jury duty, because when Mr. Bowman had his trial, there was no brother or sister on that jury. We had 6 white people acquit him because justice that day was fair. But sometimes it's not. Federal civil rights cases are based upon jurors that are on voter registration rolls. Well, we all know what happens politically to keep, African American people off of voter rolls, and gerrymandering and all of that. And so it really is voting, showing up, and even in a place, I had a juror one time say in federal court, this ain't the place for me. And I just wanted to scream at her, and that's exactly why it's the place for you. Because it's so important not to put your head down and just let it happen, because it is systemic, and the only way to fix it is inch by inch, going to mile by mile and year by year to make it better.
John, let me say this. You say that, John. I just want to say I thank God for you making those comments, because one of the things that myself, Mr. Bowden, and some other folks have been trying to tell the predominantly black community is to speak up, right? Shout out what's going on, and stop being passive and letting these things just get pushed up under the rug, and go vote. And John spoke about him being in the room with a lot of figures in the NAACP meeting, being the only white, and how he walks around with his white privilege. Well, if we don't do anything about it as black people, and get our pens out, right, and stop having these private conversations and group meetings with each other, and put it in paper and put the writing in the citizen complaints in on the officers, then we're not going to get anywhere. And so until we fight back, and I don't mean physically, until we fight back with our vote, till we fight back with speaking up, using social media and everything that we have in our power to address these egregious injustices, you're not going to get any change. And I'm only one man. John is only one attorney. We only can do so much. And we can't dig around and find all the cases. People got to speak up and stop being scared, and really won't change, and not say they won't change and demonstrate they won't change. So I just wanted to say that.
And it's not all race. It predominantly, that's what we think about.
Right.
But, 3 weeks ago, I was filing a lawsuit in Duval County because a deaf couple couldn't get an interpreter. And now we've got a blind man who is now packed and ready to shoot because he's carrying his cane folded up. And you wouldn't believe it if it wasn't true. And playing out in front of him. That's why these stories are important. That's why media is excruciatingly important. So it's a blue in everybody issue. We think about the George Floyd. We think about the incidents, and we've got to address that. But it's the disenfranchised and ADA violations, and not treating people like people, equal. This could have been resolved in 2 minutes. Okay. 20 seconds. Okay. Hey, you know what? Can I give you a ride? Can I help you? You good? Yeah, I'm good. Not, all right, tyrant. I think you should be arrested. What for? Resisting arrest. Well, what was the underlying arrest? What did he do wrong? Nothing. So that's why it's dismissed. But in the meantime, guess what? He's spending 26 hours in prison or in jail
Without his cane or my medicine.
it's egregious, and we've got to have government be accountable to us. All right, any other questions? Sorry for the long answer.
Perhaps I show my 61 years.
And military training, and it's God bless him, because if it's cases that create new laws and new policies. Even my own father didn't really love lawyers, but I think he'd be proud of the change that we're making, and it's a lot of fights, and at the end of the day, we're storytellers. The story happened to him, but we're storytellers, just like media storytellers, and it's an excruciatingly important role to educate people about what's going on, so that they will vote, so that they will be publicly active. All right. Any other questions? Thank you all.